A high fever spikes within you, following a headache and chills. Later on, more symptoms arise, such as muscle aches and vomiting. The first thing that crosses your mind is, these sound like flu-like symptoms. I better get this checked out. However, you arrive at the doctor's office and they give you a flu test, and the test turns out negative. Panic begins to set in. A sense of disbelief rushes over your body, and you begin to evaluate the doctor's eligibility. You begin to wonder, what have I contracted if it's not the flu? There are other viruses that have flu-like symptoms. One of them is called leptospirosis. Today, I will provide you with information about the disease, explain the treatment, prevention, and symptoms involved, and explain what the disease affects. Let's first find out what leptospirosis is. Leptospirosis is a zoonotic disease that is transmittable from animals to humans. This disease is also found in mainly marsupial and mammalian species, as well as rodents. Canines are among the most common hosts. This is problematic as it can lead to the exposure of humans. In addition, the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health reports that the burden of leptospirosis is estimated to be about 500,000 affected people worldwide per year. The control of lepto is important, not only for animals, but also for a public health perspective. Now that we know a little bit about what lepto is, I will explain how it can be transmitted. Leptospirosis can shed through various cells or leptospires by the passage of urine. It is a bacteria that flourishes in wetlands and can survive for months in water and moist soils. You may be thinking, I don't have a dog. How would I be a candidate for lepto? Or, my dog's an inside dog. It doesn't have much access to water sources. However, lepto can be found in reservoir hosts. A publication by the Journal of Small Animal Practice states that these hosts can harbor leptospires in their renal tubes for prolonged periods of time, from which they are shed into the environment via urine. With this example, we can see how the urine of infected animals or the soils and water surfaces that are contaminated become a one-way transportation for spreading this disease. We can become infected with lepto by accident, in direct contact of mucous membranes, or with broken skin. Common risk factors for exposure in dogs include drinking from bodies of water and roaming on industrial or commercial properties. This increases the chance of becoming in contact with potentially infected wildlife, farm animals, rodents, and other dogs. As there are dogs that are at increased risk to the infection of leptospirosis, the same is for humans. This includes performing activities that involve animal contact, such as hunting wildlife, veterinary practice, and direct or indirect contact with rodents. Be advised that there is exposure to this bacteria. However, we can also contract this bacteria through recreational activities, such as swimming, canoeing, and fishing. Due to the intense contact with water or soil that is contaminated. Therefore, even if you are not around areas of water or do not have any animals, there is still a chance that leptospirosis is prevalent. This is why it is important to understand the disease and how it is transferred. Since leptospirosis is a zoonotic disease, I will now explain the symptoms, treatment, and prevention in both dogs and humans. The common signs to experience within dogs are vomiting, refusal to eat, weight loss, decreased activity, and muscle stiffness. Within humans, the most common symptoms are lethargy, fever, loss of appetite, increased thirst, muscle aches, jaundice, and chills. The incubation period for lepto varies. The clinical signs are generally not shown right after infection. it usually takes 7 to 10 days before the symptoms are present, although it can vary from as short as 3 days to as long as a month. Now that we have discussed the clinical signs and symptoms of leptospirosis, we will now discuss the treatment. Much like any infection, the rate of treatment varies from person to person. The most common treatment in both animals and humans is an oral antibiotic called doxycycline. There are other antibiotic treatments that can be used, such as IV penicillin. Preventative measures to decrease the prevalence of leptospirosis are vaccinating your animals on a regular basis. And it is also very important to vaccinate dogs that are used for water sports, such as duck hunting and other recreational activities, or sports that they will be around water sources or wildlife. Prevention strategies for humans include wearing protective clothing and avoid swimming areas that may be contaminated. Do you recall when I said that the symptoms of the flu are much like lepto? Just like the flu, if lepto is left untreated, it can be dire and deadly. Leptospirosis is a disease that is multi-systematic. In humans, this bacteria can affect the kidneys and liver in particular, but it can also be found affecting other organs such as the spleen, lungs, pancreas, and genital tracts. In conclusion, we have discussed that you are still likely to be susceptible to leptospirosis, even if you do not own an animal. Methods of infection are through mucous membranes or broken skin due to infected soils or water sources. Furthermore, we can evaluate the clinical symptoms of leptospirosis in both animals and humans and also treat them with an oral antibiotic. Preventative measures can be taken by vaccination of canines and wearing protective clothing or avoiding swimming areas that could be contaminated. Lastly, we discussed how the extent of bacterial infection varies from host to host. Since leptospirosis is a zoonotic disease with similar clinical manifestations in most hosts, it is important that we maintain and understand the severity in both animal and human lives. Thank you.